By the River's Blue tells of a couple who do not fall in love so much as ascend together into love from their own dark places. A cycle of 12 songs, this album offers a series of contrasts that celebrate various moods and stages of a late season romance. Expressed here are hard realities, as well as flashes of color, whimsy, and rapture. With us today, we have Brian Campbell. Hi, Brian, and welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you, Sheila?
First, please introduce yourself and tell us how you came to be a musician.
Well, I'm Brian Campbell. I've been a musician for quite a while, but I started in a way kind of late. I started playing guitar in my 20s and started composing songs in my mid-30s. But I also have been writing poetry. I've published 5 books of poetry. I did record an album around the turn of the century, but then I've come back to it recently. I just had a kind of existential need to record these songs. So I've been, playing music since then. But I mean, when I moved to Montreal, I come from Toronto originally, but I moved to Montreal in the early 90s. I kind of found my songwriting voice. I was actually aiming for something different on a poetic level, but it came out as, I remember one glorious summer where I wrote about 25 songs sitting on a balcony in the plateau overlooking with a view of a church and the trees and people passing by. Anyway, that was a marvelous moment, and since then I've written about 70 songs. So I have lots of material yet to record.
Who are your bandmates and what do they play or do?
I'll be launching the album actually at Mariposa Cafe this coming Sunday between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m. Sunday the 18th. You can call Victor to reserve since seating's limited, but there's still spaces available. I'll be accompanied by Lisa Mackey, who is the backup singer on half of the songs on the album, and Jeff Deeprose, who plays fiddle on 2 of the songs. And there'll be a 3rd song, which is not on the album, which will conclude the set, but we did record, so all 3 of us.
Tell us about your latest album, By the River's Blue.
It's an album, as I said, it's an album really about my relationship with my wife and how we met, and all these songs are kind of related to that. My wife's name is Jocelyn, and she's actually a writer and visual artist. Her novel, World of Glass, was shortlisted for the QWF Hugh McLennan Prize, actually, Fiction Prize. As I said, we both met when we were actually kind of down and depressed, and we supported each other and then kind of discovered our compatibility, and it grew from there. So in a way, these songs are said in the summary. They are about ascending into love, ascending into greater realization. That's a little bit unusual. And as I say, it's a late season romance because we met in middle age. It's also, at that age, there's contemplation of what is to come, mortality. As one of my songs says, let's just live our lives despite that. As I said, this is a cycle, really, and they're all quite related. So.
What was the process you went through producing this album?
All these songs were recorded just prior to and during the pandemic. The recording process was interrupted by repeated lockdowns, my engineer having COVID, etc. I even had to go to another studio for a while. I just recorded single after single without any object in mind. There was no sense of when this would end and when I'd be able to put together an album. So I just recorded what I felt like, and out of about 19, 20 songs, this dozen emerged. As a kind of a unity, as a kind of a narrative unity. I took my time putting it together because, of course, with the pandemic, it would have been difficult to launch it anyway. Even now, we're just kind of opening up, So that's about, I guess, the story of the process.
One of the singles off your album is The Arrow. What is the story behind this song?
Well, it's a song about how my wife and I met. It's very autobiographical. It was at a summer solstice party of a mutual friend, and we were both troubled and indeed depressed, and as the song puts it, there was a spark, but it was mired in our own darkness and we didn't recognize it right away. Musically speaking, this song was evolved much later, just in the last year or so. I learned a chord progression I liked, and it evoked a poem I had written called The Arrow, which is in my collection Shimmer Report, and I adapted it to music. maybe the song could be called Angel's Wings, although my instincts were, as with the poem, to find a more indirect title that sheds light on the core of the poem itself. I mean, the arrow refers to Cupid's arrow. Maybe we were struck by Cupid's arrow, as I said, but only years later we were sure that's what it was. I should add, too, this is an outlier in my album, in that my voice and guitar are accompanied by synth. Most of my accompaniment is more kind of folk and traditional.
May we hear some of your music?
Sure. Yep. Yeah, definitely.
This is The Arrow on the New Spins Library. and that you are a poet. Could you read us a snippet from one of your many collections?
Sure, I have a poem in mind here. It's from my latest trade book collection called Shimmery Port. And in a way, like the album, it's about us. It's called, and it kind of connects with the theme of late season romance. We had met too late to have children. So this is a song called Late. As a couple, we came together late. So there were no shouts, it's a boy, it's a girl. No fits of crying to keep us awake. No angelic of our own, singing in a choir at church or school. Nor slamming door with I'm out of here. For the most part, we tell ourselves this suits us fine. Though sadly we admit none will remember or carry on this line. It is quiet here. We are free to think and write. From the couch you say, there's much to be grateful. And yes, I quite agree. Such moments as these we realize and please.
Thank you. That was beautiful, Brian.
Thank you.
Another single from your album is Lullaby for My Love. Who sings with you on this song, and why did you enjoy featuring her?
Well, it's Lisa Mackey. She features 6 of the 12 songs in the album, including this one. She's a local singer here in Montreal, and she recorded a song written and produced by John Jordan called The Storm, and John Jordan's a singer and songwriter, musician I know. When I first heard that recording of her, I knew that was the female voice I wanted on this album. She has a warm voice. She actually sings Aretha Franklin really well. She turns out she's incredibly competent at singing harmonies or 3-part harmonies to herself in the recording studio. Lullaby is actually the first song I ever wrote. It's a kind of a dream, also evoked by the chord progression. I call it a kind of honest fantasy. Maybe I'm singing to the child in myself. It's a lullaby. I'm so happy to have finally recorded it and put it on an album. So this is the final song on the album too. So it's called Lullaby for My Love.
Go to sleep, little darling. Take your rest. Tomorrow everything will be just fine. There's car doors slamming, the streetcars clattering, but don't you pay them any mind. Go to sleep, little darling. Let your cradle roll. Tomorrow everything will be just fine. Go to sleep, little darling. Somewhere in a city, sirens are howling. Someone's house is burning down. Somewhere in a forest, the trees are all dying. They're all being things as you take your rest. As this troubled world goes round and round and round and round and round. Go to sleep, little darling. Take your rest. Everything will be safe and sound. Go to sleep, little darling. Go to sleep, my love. Tomorrow everything will be just fine. Go to sleep, little darling. Go to sleep. Tomorrow the sun will shine. Tomorrow the sun will shine.
If our listeners want some free listening time or to buy your music, where should they go?
Well, it's available on Bandcamp, briancampbell.bandcamp.com. It's also accessible through my website, Campbell Muse, AMPBELL Muse, MUSE.com. And in a few weeks, it'll be on streaming services like YouTube, Spotify, and Tidal. And again, the album's being launched at Mariposa this coming Sunday at Mariposa Cafe between 3:30 and 5:30. And I'll be accompanied by Lisa and Jeff Deeprose, who plays fiddle on the violin on the album. So yeah, that's where you can find it.
Thank you for your interview today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Brian Campbell speaking about his music. I'm your host, Sheila Ferrando.